Hello and welcome to this workshop session as part of the buildingSMART International Standards Summit, Lillestrøm 2023. Thank you for coming today. My name is Ra Twilly and I will be your moderator today. Today's session is titled Use Case Management. The speakers for the session are Thomas Glaettli, Managing Director of buildingSMART Switzerland, and Cornelius Preidel, Chairman of buildingSMART Germany. The session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to the speakers, I'd like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For online attendees, your microphones will remain muted for the duration of the session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please use the chat box in the control panel. For the attendees here in the room, please keep background noise to a minimum, and if you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand and we will bring a microphone to you. I would also like to bring to your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted, and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. Now, without further ado, I will hand over to Thomas.
Cornelius.
So, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. All right. It's a pleasure to be here and starting and running that workshop, Thomas and myself, because we have been working on something called the use case management. We had already tremendous, vibrant discussions yesterday in the infrastructure crossover domain. Have been talking about the use case management, and we want to pick that up and continue working with you today together to develop the use case management further. But first of all, of course, we want to give everybody a common understanding what the use case management is basically about. But first of all, this is about interaction, and we need your help, right? We want to get actually the knowledge from your brains, and we want to pick that up actually and develop our product further. So that means heavy interaction, no worries, right? It's going to be fun, and it's going to be interaction on Miro. So please, this is the tiny URL and the QR code, and please prepare yourself. Best to use on a tablet or a notebook. We're gonna use that actually 2 times. And I'll give you just a couple of more seconds. We're gonna have the QR code and the tiny URL later on additionally. So to actually give you a common understanding what the use case management is about is that we don't talk about the use case management first. We talk actually about the problem that it should solve. And the beautiful thing about use case management is that's not specific, only one stakeholder's problem or something. It solves problems for many stakeholders at a time. And we tried, it is on the next slide again, no worries, all right? So, and it solves many problems at a time, basically, which is all around the problems of many people not knowing about actually the best practices, common practices in various kind of angles. So let's take an example over here. We have the, typical BIM manager, for example, who wants to apply practices, right? Common practices across BIM projects. He wants to reuse, for example, together with the stakeholders he is interacting with, for example, best practices, but he doesn't know about what the best practice is, right? So how to solve that problem? Do you have to develop that actually all yourself? Is that something what you have to do all on your own? Well, that takes a lot of time, and that is, something as an adoption speed doesn't really help. But we have the very same problem actually for other stakeholders too. For example, for me, I'm a trainer or educator, you could say, working at university, right? And I don't know about all of the use cases that are working people with actually out there in the industry. So how to know about that, right? I know maybe some specific use cases and these kind of things because I have been using them in my professional career, right? But there might be also others that people are using, right, out there, and I don't know about it. Or as another example, software companies. Software companies can only develop the best products if they know about actually how users are working with open standards or with data formats or whatever out there, right? They have to know about best practices in order to develop tools, in order to evolve basically the tools that are used out there to do the best job. That is the idea behind. And basically, based on that idea, the idea on use case management was born. That was already in 2018 when basically the Swiss actually, as a spearhead, actually have been starting to develop the use case management. And meanwhile, that is an integral part already since 2020, but yet we're still standing here now and we want to talk about it because it needs a push. We need your help basically to develop that further. And the German-speaking chapters have been gathering, have been, well, coming together, have been all agreeing on, yes, use case management is something that is, well, required to have a push. That is something which can only survive, which can only be successful, basically, if it is in use. And that is the reason why we're now here and talking and working together with you. All right, but now it's about a workshop. So let's get started with the workshop. Here we have the QR code again. So we wanted to start something simple with you as an icebreaker, right? Because you're already gathering here in tables, which is great because that is now your first task to do. And that is already prepared on Miro for you. What we want to do is a so-called reverse brainstorm. Instead of actually now solving a problem like, for example, let's craft a sailboat to get across the sea, we're trying actually to think about what would be the worst to do so that we can't cross the sea. So if you think about best practices and how you are using and sharing these best practices within your company, within your projects, right, with other shareholders, what could be the worst thing to do to not share the best practices that someone else can make use of it, to adopt it? How can I basically break this use case in the best way? Let's go to Miro to explain it a bit. You can follow also now these URL because there is also instructions. Does it work for everybody? With the QR code? Why does it not work? Okay, yeah.
Maybe.
It's best to use a notebook, but please, you can also work together on your tables if just only one has one machine, because, well, tended to be the icebreaker, meaning like, please discuss and work together. So, what is the whole thing about? I described it over here. How should I frame the description of a use case or good practice so that it is as useless as possible, right? And I also brought one example with me. On the right-hand side, we have here the working board. And there is one example, for example, be vague. Do not describe the details, just forget about it. That would be really bad, right? Because how to understand, how to adopt if I'm really vague, if I don't have the details that I need. It's just only one thing to think about. Please pick one of these, doesn't really matter which color, but one of these Post-its and just describe it. You have 5 minutes just to collect it. Please discuss, just work out something and be brutal, be direct, and it cannot be crazy enough, all right? Everybody understands what to do? All right, time is up. No worries, we will continue working on exactly that. So what you have been working on, even if it feels maybe wrong and bad and the sailboat, right, that was used to actually solve a problem is now completely broken, but no worries, we're gonna use all that content actually to flip it upside down later on, right, and to work on the contents and specifically on the criteria that are gonna help us to improve the use case management. That is what the whole thing was about. Next to, of course, that you now are in touch, you gathered in tables, you have been working together, great, right? That is what we wanted to achieve, Icebreaker accomplished. Let's take a look at a few examples how bad now it is, right? The sailboat that is broken. You cannot find the right use case. Okay, findability, That's bad, all right? Describing a use case for determined software and even the clicks in. Oh, that sounds very detailed and maybe too precise. Well, something to think about, right? Or nobody uses standardized templates. Okay, well, I guess everybody knows that, what happens after this one, right? So, tricky things. No worries, we're gonna come back to this one and we're gonna use what you have been working on. But now that the sailboat is broken, I guess we can get back again. Because now let's think a bit about how we wanted to solve this thing based on the, thank you. All right, what we wanted to work on, right? What the use case management is about. So now that the sailboat is broken, let's think about actually how we could improve that. And this is basically what the use case management is about. So it's a service to capture, specify, and exchange industry best practices. Just imagine that there is a platform, right? And you don't know how people are using for specific use cases the processes in the industry, but you can just Google it, right? You know who you are and what you want to achieve, what you are working on. So you type in a keyword and then you find basically a description, yeah, like a cooking recipe, what we have been talking about yesterday, where you find what you need, all the ingredients, all the participants, and how it basically works step by step. Of course, that sounds really awesome and so on. Problem is, we already have been working on use cases, but it seems like that it doesn't really have any adoption, not the adoption that we wanted it to have. Basically, we need to work on it. And this is exactly why we wanted to put the use case management here on the international table to discuss it together with you. The idea is that there is a guided process of developing and sharing, and this important word of we wanted to use a common language. And this is exactly why we also presented here, why we develop here on behalf of buildingSMART, right? So let's now take a look at the problem statements, right? And it flips also, of course, the problem statements upside down because all the problems that we have been discussing in the beginning, right? They should be solved. So let's take a look, for example, at the software company. A software company could also make use of this use case management because if users describe the best practices in this platform, this is the perfect guidance for a software developer now to take a look basically and to find a tool that really helps users with the ways how they are working in practice. That is something which would be really awesome, right? Because currently, it doesn't really always feel like that they really know what they're doing. They are spearheading and going forward and so on. And sometimes that's not really how we want to work actually with the tools. Hey, it would be great if we would have that. Or for me as an educator, right? It would be amazing to have that as a platform so that I can set up the best practices that are actually used in industry, right? So that students already, before going to industry, know already how things run, how things work in industry. Would be amazing. So just to give you an idea of that many, many stakeholders really would benefit from that, well, knowledge, right? Richness of knowledge. So let's discuss a bit of what UCM is, but let's also discuss about what UCM is not. UCM is open to all chapters, to all national chapters, international chapters. Our idea, our vision is really that everybody who produces, who is working on best practices, is using UCM to publish these, right, results and conclusions in UCM. So it has to be not only open to buildingSMART itself, but it should be also open to companies, associations, whoever is thinking, who is ever working about best practices and is willing to share it so that others can make use of it. So we think that this is the foundation for open BIM projects and it can be used, and this is important, as a reference. It's not meant to be a project-specific platform. It's not that, hey, there is the best practice, let's copy-paste and go into the project, right, and work with it. It is a reference, like a cooking recipe. So some recipes only work for you if you tweak them, right? You want to have it more spicy. You want to use it actually with your specific kind of kitchen or whatever, right? So it is a generic recipe that you can make use of, but you can use it as a template or as a reference. So what it is not, and that's important to understand, we're not talking about a CDE, not a project information management system or something like that, but it's a cooking book. It's a recipe book, something to look for, right? How are other people are doing that, right? And this is important to understand. It's suitable to be used for the actual project execution, right? But you have to project specifically set it up for yourself. This is still something what you need to do. But we think that this can be the baseline, the cornerstone to achieve something great. We see the UCM as a real enabler, because if everybody would share, publish, agree, and align on the UCM best practices, right? If you enter your keywords and you find like, oh, these companies are using this and that best practice and so on. It seems to be good. It seems to be working. So let's also try to use these best practices, and then I can reproduce and adopt it. Of course, Open BIM standards help a lot with that. And then we can reuse it, implement it, improve it, automate it, and, well, who knows what's coming then afterwards. So the idea is that these use cases are developing over time. It's something dynamic. All right, what is the vision? Just quickly on this whole thing, right? Might be a bold statement, right? But sometimes you have to be bold to think about the vision and these kind of things. We really envision that the use case management can be the cornerstone of BIM, as said. Just think of, you don't know what to do, but you know what is your task, right? What you want to work on. You can use the use case management, and you can help yourself with understanding the best practices, how they are currently used in other companies, right? We really think about a community-driven approach. It's a foundation for everybody as a unified understanding. And it's evolving over time, because if people evolve the best practices, it will find its way back to the use case management, where it can be found by others, right? This is the idea. And that is a starting point. And we, as the German-speaking chapters, we want to use it, for example, for our pre-standardization work that is currently happening, for example, in our national or international domains. That's the idea. All right, let's look into the use case management. Thomas.
Thank you very much, Cornelius. Okay, yeah, let's take a little deep dive in the use case management itself. I'd like to explain you how the use case management is working. So Cornelius already highlighted that. What is the use case management and what is it not? What you see here, the use case management is really bringing together industry best practice. And this can be adapted to the use case management in different ways. So first of all, we implemented the structure of the IDM, Information Delivery Manual, so that you can really create or develop a use case in a very structured way, which is according to the standards. This is a possibility. And you see here, you generate the use case, and then you have to create the metadata. So that you say, okay, what's the name, what's the identification, version number, who is the author, what is the status, and so on. Very, very important, because if you go and look for other use cases on Google, you search, you will not notice what kind of status is this use case in, who wrote this use case, is there somebody responsible, and so on. And here you do really the metadata to do the identification for it. And then what we see here, this is the generation of the use case. So first you do a use case definition. So this is a text block where you say, okay, I describe it. I say what are the targets and so on. Do I have some references? So this is the text block. And then the next step is, of course, the process diagram. You have to define who is delivering whom, what kind of information to what time, and in which phase. And in the third part, you have the exchange requirement. So you really have to define the information, what you have to deliver. And we implemented some standards. There's also the level of information need standard in the platform. So you can do it this way, a structured way, kind of a development of a use case. The second part is you simply upload your results. So also here, very important, do the metadata, do the identification that the user who is using the use case is aware about who did the use case, what kind of status is the use case. And then you have the possibility to simply upload your document. So PDF, where you did a whole description and so on, is possible to upload. And the second part is then you can also upload some references, some IDS files, some IFC files, which are related to this use case. So everything is very easy actually to upload and generate. And then we will do a quality rating. This is then the part of the workshop we want to do afterwards. And we will publish this use case. So very important is always the chapter or the owner of the tenant is responsible for a quality check and for the publication. Does not mean everybody can simply upload everything. We like to really verify the quality of your publications. And the other thing is then, of course, it can be an input to the standards. So we say kind of a pre-standardization. In Germany, you do that already quite well. We started also in Switzerland to do that. So this is an important thing. We can be much faster with best practices than just waiting till a standard is here, because the development of a standard takes 3 to 5 years. Here we can be within weeks or months, we can publish the results. And very important is really the use cases are a reference for your BIM projects. If you go to a BIM project, then of course you work in a CD, in a project information management system, and so on. You take the use case, you adapt the use case, as mentioned. It's a recipe where you say, okay, yeah, I know how to do, but then I need to adapt a little bit. And then, of course, you work in your tools with the standards from buildingSMART. Very well-known picture from Leon van Berlo. This is actually the introduction to the technical roadmap. And as you see here again, use case management is the starting point. Your use cases are really crucial for inputs to the projects, because you can really say, okay, I have a project, I have 20 use cases, I go to the use case management, download the use cases, and can have a real good starting point. I do not start from scratch, I do start from 60, 80%. I will never start from 100%, of course, because I have to adapt the use case. And then you go into the development of your project as it is. So the use case management is really also part of the technical roadmap from buildingSMART International. Yeah, sometimes I get the question, oh, it's so complicated. What do I have to do to get started in the use case? So first of all, like every tool, you need to do a registration because we want to know who is working on the platform, and for the users of the platform, you can also make some comments to each use case. This is also very, very important in the future. We like to collect the comments from the community. You can directly write your opinions and improvements and enhancements in the use case. There's a special comment function on that, and this will be collected and provided to the project teams. So therefore, you need a registration. This is with a single sign-on from buildingSMART. So if you use another service from buildingSMART, you already have your single sign-on. And then, of course, you have to say on what kind of project do I work. So just simply send a mail to the administrator or to usecasemanagement.ch and say, okay, I like to work on this project. And then you will receive invitation from the use case management service itself. So you have to accept this, and then you can basically start in the co-creation space. So it's quite simple. The use case management consists basically of two sides. So we have the browse and read side. Let's take it this way. So this is the front end, the website. So here you will find all use cases. So all use cases are collected on the front page, and you have some filter function to find the right use cases. Then the second side is for writing and editing. So this is the backend, the so-called co-collaboration space. there we have a kind of a user management. So you have your projects, your project spaces, your documents you work on. And of course, there you can say, okay, I have write access, I have only read access, and so on. So it's really a quite advanced user management behind it. But it's nice to just show a presentation. I'd just like to jump into the platform itself. So this is a use case management tool. As you see, it's also multi-language capability. You have different languages here. You have the filter page, where you say, for example, I have different chapters who work on. I just want to see the English use cases. And for example, I like to see the building domain, the use cases from the building domain, so I can filter. And I see, okay, building domain already published quite a number of use cases. Let's go for the first one. Here you see this part here on the right-hand side is really the part of the metadata, the identification, which is very, very important. So you like to have, of course, a GeoID. You like to know what kind of life cycle stages are in, is it approved, and who is the author of this use case. So everything is part of the platform. And then you start with the definition. You see here, this is the part where you have a lot of text, or try to have not too much text, so really focus on what you need. And then you have limitation, references to other use cases, and so on. And then you have the process description here. And of course, you can add as much pictures and explanation, whatever you want. So you see here, this is really a very detailed use case in terms of the description. You can also upload a lot of different relation, as you see here. And by the end, you have the exchange requirements, what is really needed. And here, for this case, for example, there is also IDS uploaded. So everything is in place in this platform. So very easy and good to understand. And we will also have the possibility not only to create use cases, you can also create other documents. For example, you can say a technical report, a white paper, stuff like this can also be uploaded. We have also different organizations on the platform. You see American Indian Concrete Institution, for example, and this is a good example to show you how easy it is actually to simply upload a document. So for a document, of course, you need somehow to write a short management summary, make a short illustration, and then you just simply upload the PDF. So I would say for people who work with this platform, you can do that within 15 minutes, no problem at all, and then you can download. And for those who are working on the co-collaboration space, this is basically, this is basically the co-collaboration space. Now here, you see again, we are here, buildingSMART International, building domain, building energy modeling. And what you see here is we have a number of use cases in development already, and some are already published. So this is the use case I just showed you before. And just to see, again, now we have the metadata section with all needed tags and classifications. And then you have always this structure which is coming from information delivery manual standards, so use case definition, process definition, and the exchange requirements. So it's very easy, very straightforward, and simply you can define the use cases. So this is just a brief overview about the platform. Let's get back. Now, see here, this I already explained you, but it's maybe a good reminder. Two possibilities: either I generate according to the standard, or I say, okay, I already developed my use case, my document, my white paper, and so on. Okay, then I just upload the results I already have. So, this was the easy part.
Exactly.
Now, back to Cornelius.
Thank you, Thomas, for the introduction. So I guess now everybody has a more clear picture of what the whole thing is about. But as you can imagine, and as you maybe already have seen, the use cases are currently quite different, right? And what makes a good use case? I guess we can all agree on, and you're going to experience, if you haven't visited the use case management yourself, please do it. We warmly invite you to do that now within the session or afterwards and so on. The question is really, what makes a good use case? What is the criteria? What makes a good use case? What is it about? Is it about the technical description? Is it about the easiness of adoption? Is it about that it really nails the point of my problem, so that it really solves the problem that I need to solve in my project, in my workflow, in my company, and wherever? Is it the richness of the use cases, so that I have a very broad, right, idea of the different use cases that I want to cover? Now, well, that is something to discuss because, well, this is under development. It's useful. You can use it, and please make use of it. But of course, it's not final. It's not done. It's still under development. And we warmly invite you to give us feedback, to work with us on the criteria that, from your point of view, have top priority. So, and now to close the loop, right, where we started with, we have broken the sailboat, right? And now, as already announced, we want to flip it upside down. And now we want to think of basically what makes a good use case. And we don't have to start from zero. We can start exactly from the first exercise that we have been doing. So the mainline question is, how and according to what criteria should we measure, evaluate, and benchmark? Because what we currently don't have is, as you have seen, you can enter a keyword, you can find a use case and so on. You see the author, you see the descriptions, and blah, 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 right? But the question is, do I have any kind of an idea what makes a good use case? Who has qualified that? Who is maybe using that? How successful is that used in industry? And so on and so on. So there is, well, a lot of different ideas how we could give users feedback, how we could, well, work together with the community so that you easily find what you have been looking for, what is really getting close to the best practice in the industry. And that is something that we can hardly do ourselves. We need your help, right? This is something what needs to be developed over time. So please work together and discuss these, and please use the post-its from the Icebreaker as a basis. But maybe let's go over to the middle board, because I prepared some examples also for you so that your life will not be as tough as you might expect. Right? So let's take my example from before, this be vague. So one of the criteria could be that we measure the completeness. And of course, completeness is quite fuzzy. What makes a completeness? Now it would be great for you that you also think about benchmark. How we could now measure the completeness of the description of a use case, because there might be different criteria which, well, benchmark such a use case completeness, like configurations. As you already heard, there is, for example, a chance to use configurations open bin-based, like IDS, right, would be one tool. But what if you work with native tools, with native file formats? Like think of, not doing any advertisement, a classification specification for Archicad. Think of a shared parameter file for Revit. That can be a configuration, something that you can share to make others' life easier to get started, right? This is the idea. What about role descriptions? What about exchange requirements? So many, many things to think of, and that is something what we want you now to work on, right? Don't feel stressed. It's just about that you take what you have been working on from before and you think of how to flip it upside down. Got it? Questions? Let's start. You have 20 minutes and you have our full support. We're going to help you. No worries.
Okay, let's start.
All right, time is up. Thank you so much. As you can see, actually, we have already great results. We have a super crowded Miro board. which is perfect, but we have still also half an hour left over. So now we wanted to actually get in a discussion with you, and we wanted to actually also, because the work is not yet done, there is one more step to do, but no worries. It's going to be quite easy for everybody, because that can be something that everybody can do also afterwards. But now it's about time to actually find out a bit, to extract what has been one of the main topics, one of the most vibrant discussions in your discussion group about. What has been the one thing where you maybe all agreed, or where you had all the most discussions on actually, what is the thing, what makes a good use case? What would you like to have basically in this use case management when looking for a use case, which should be an integral part of this one? And maybe if you have also an idea how to benchmark this, Tom is going to actually prepare in the background then the next exercise, but it would be nice now to get in a discussion together with you. But I mean, like, can I start with you? Just if somebody wants to tell quickly actually what has been your discussion about?
Okay. I think in the beginning we started to talk about what we need in the use case management on the platform. If you
Can you?
Yeah,
Put your
sorry.
mic.
Because if you're looking for use cases, sometimes it's hard to find the right one. So we need to have like a good purpose description. What was the original use case used for? In which purpose? So
Findability.
Yeah.
Something like that. Finding
Yeah.
the best use case for the right purpose.
Yeah, because if you want to adopt it in the projects, we need to know, okay, what is the point it was written for the first time. So we can focus on the points we have to adopt for our projects.
Did you also think of the benchmark, how to improve that?
No, we didn't get that far.
Right.
No, I think this is the ownership of the use case and why it was written in the first case. If we want to find a similar use case to be able to filter it out, and so we need I think the original purpose and the owner is what we found out to be important to.
Maybe one point, because we discussed that too. We find it hard to see without a concrete purpose how specific the use case was meant to be.
Okay.
So there are use cases that are on a higher level, and we got a very specific ones. So
What is the right one?
which one is the right one? Yeah, for my own project.
Exactly. We have more groups, but we have plenty of time then for discussion and so on. But I guess here in this work group, because I was attending you, so I know a bit like what you have been discussing about, that was something different. Somebody of you?
Then it's me. Yeah, well, we had more discussion a little bit about processes, perhaps also structures. So one part that we discussed is that we need a kind of an accreditation of authors or groups of authors, so to get the credibility for a specific use case. And that should be an orchestrated or managed process, probably from buildingSMART, so that you have two domains within the use case management. There's one domain where everybody can edit use cases. There's another domain where say, well, these are accredited use case authors or groups of authors, where you really have then the security that this group of authors is capable to really write a use case at the end of the day. And then on the other hand, we've discussed the process, so that you need also kind then of a validation of a use case. So one part is a technical part. So is it complete? Is everything in? Perhaps also technical aspects in the sense that you can compare technically use cases with other use cases and give hints to the authors, but eventually also to the user that would like to use this use case. But on the other hand, also kind of validation process. So is there a process that a use case went through a validation in a larger community, not only with the authors, perhaps also one or two steps of a validation that the larger community really says, well, this is the use case that we know and it's written well and so on, that gives you also another credibility in the sense of not only that there is a process for validation, like we know it from the data dictionary, that you can put a process behind a domain in data dictionary, but also check, is the process also followed in practice?
Thank you so much. Thomas, you got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's continue over here. So what you have been discussing on?
All right, there's Tim and George and I and Vanessa here. And we've got some factors. One is that the use case needs to have as much technical detail as possible, so that allows people to follow on the project. But at the same time, Tim pointed out that although you can have a lot of technical information, but this information needs to be organized in a layer structure that is easy to find. What's nice is that if we can offer links to external sources, so you don't allow, so you allow us to link, from other places like YouTube video tutorials, that allows us to look at some workflows, that makes it easy so that we are not just contained within like this particular space. And one more thing that we've thought about was that we could, in every project, there's going to be challenges, new ones that we find. So what's nice is if we can write down what were the lessons that we learned, what were the issues discovered. And I think that is also related to some of the other comments that I've seen about, allowing other people to rate and comment. And that can be a cycle for positive improvement.
Thank you so much. So on usability and comprehensibility, great, perfect. You guys, you also have something to share?
We can you get it up? We started to look at the problem about letting everyone define what they want, and we discussed about that we need to somehow standardize.
Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
Okay, sorry. We started to look at the problem about letting everyone define what they want, and we thought that we need to somehow standardize the processes and sort of the data with the tags, metadata, and use a framework, workflow, and somehow get a standard. Yeah.
Thank you. So metadata, right? So also, I guess, pretty similar to the findability. So that's right. You can find exactly what you're looking for process-wise. Thank you. Over there, you also have got something to share? You don't have to.
We discussed a little bit concerning how to develop knowledge out of this, because I think you need to generalize in some way the cases you have, and they should be documented and identified with some kind of identifier. But we also see similar when in the software industry, where you have patterns. And maybe one way could be to have the defined BIM users as base, classify the different user cases here, and also seeing that what is the information requirements. And having a number of cases, then you may then take a step up, energy simulations, for instance. Well, in most cases, these are the parameters. Then it's technically connected to IDS and buildingSMART data dictionary. And I think that vision maybe should be shown a little bit more and try to describe that. Yeah.
Thank you for the input. Yeah, the generalization actually in the structure of these use cases, right? If they repeat and you have, well, lots of variations, that could be quite confusing. Thank you for the input. So, second last, You have been also something to contribute? Thank you.
We also discussed a feedback system for use cases where you can have structured feedback over and above comments, where you're collecting feedback and rating use cases maybe on a 5-star basis. We understood that that may introduce some bias there and also may reduce willingness for people to share use cases. But the value of having crowdsourced feedback systems is quite strong in other domains. One of the other things we spoke about was the ability to share where your use cases started in relation to where other use cases finished. So linking use cases together, you end up with processes of processes, which could potentially add some value as well. Anything else?
Happy?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we see already there is a lot of combinations, right? Because we have been seeing and hearing actually similar things already. It seems like that there is already some kind of a prioritization. So last but not least, you guys, somebody who wants to also pick up the phone, Kostas?
Yes, we are the green ones. So Thomas, if you want to type, you can type, or you can just copy paste if you like.
You're the green one, this one.
Yeah. So we talked about evaluation of use cases, so that we need a structure somehow to evaluate it. And we thought about to structure that. So we have criteria which are defined by organization, by process, and by content. So the organization criteria would be so adoption of use case by solutions in companies. So because to do a use case, to execute use case, you need a solution. And if there are a lot of solutions using the same use case, it's very nice to hear about. And the adoption of a use case, of course, by a solution in a project, which is different because it's one by one. And therefore, also the feedback on that, and who was the author. So what is his market relevance or market reach? So if it's an association, it's a different status, of course, rather than a single company. And also feedback about usage of a use case in percentage of maximum potential in the company. So if it's a standard solution, so how big is the percentage of using this use case? And the processes would be so to usage of a use case in a single project. So what value was addressed, and to see that. And also we discussed that on that, but we didn't draw it. Where is this use case positioned in an overall process map of use cases? How it is connected, and how it is related to all the other use cases. And the content-wise was this by the SMART criteria, to adopt the SMART criteria to describe how the use case was seen. Okay, that's all. Something to add?
So thank you so much. So lots of criteria. Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for your contribution. Is anybody here who wants to still say something, add something? Of course.
Yeah, I came quite late, and so I haven't heard what you discussed in the beginning of session. But anyway, somebody mentioned that it should be kind of standardized or harmonized the way we create the use cases. I've been studying the subject quite a long time already, and my solution is to use the standards. We have already several existing standards connected to use cases, and there's also somebody said here, maybe in the back, that you should maybe sometimes look outside the box. So that's what I did. I found a very nice standard about use cases from IEC, which is for electrical systems, describing exactly, basically, what we need to harmonize the presentation of a use case. Of course, it's meant for electrical systems, so it can't be adapted like one-to-one. But anyway, but there are several standards already existing. Like we have the IDM standard, obviously. There's a level of information need, which is now going to be an ISO standard and a CEN standard currently. And then we have this IEC 62559 series. So we have already these standards, and now my fear is that if we, in buildingSMART, if we start inventing our own things, then we get lost. So yeah. So my message is that use what you have, and this is I can show examples if somebody is interested. We have developed this now in Finland, and development is maybe not the correct term, because what I did, I just copied what is already out there.
Well, sometimes it's copy with pride, right? And it also works. No, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So happy to discuss that one maybe later after the session. But we want to actually use your last 10 minutes now for something that is quite crucial for us. But no worries, it's going to be quite easy exercise. And I have good and I have also bad news for you. The good news is actually you will now get money. The bad news is it's only virtual money on the Miro board. Okay, sorry for that. But we wanted to actually now give you the chance to prioritize what is the most important criterion for you. And that is quite simple, because this is the reason why Thomas has been working in the background here to put now the criteria more a bit like as a summary over here. And as you can see over here, this is the last task. It's the 100 euro task, we called it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the Norwegian crown icon, so it wouldn't have been Norwegian crowns. It's now euros. Sorry for that. But just imagine that we can solve all problems with money. I know it's not reality. We can solve certain problems with money, but let's just assume that we could, right? And everybody of you now gets 100 euros, and you can invest into solve one of the problems, right? The more money you throw on it, the more it will be solved. The more the probability that it's going to be solved sooner, right? This is the idea. So please, you will find your wallet over there. Please take a copy. Unfortunately, only virtual copy, but take it, and then you can throw the money on one of the problems, on many of the problems. It's up to you how you want to split it, right? You only have 10 of these, right? Money, but you can basically distribute it however you want to do it with your cash. Understood? Got it? Please just move it wherever you want to invest it. You can do that now all along, but of course we can spend the last few minutes, because that is something which can go side by side with an ongoing discussion. Maybe just a quick reason, explanation why we are doing that. It's really for us important to understand what are the next most important steps that we should take, right? And we are well aware that this criteria that give you a feedback of why and how is a use case important, and we have heard many reasons why the criteria are important, but we want to understand where to start. And this is basically the reason why we are doing this exercise together with you. And maybe that's also positive feedback for you, because that means like your opinion matters, right? You have now the chance to have an impact on the next steps and the development. But is there any open questions, any discussions? Something for the last few minutes? Oh no. Your money is gone. It's locked.
You run out of money.
So, any questions in the audience?
So maybe short recapture. You can still play some money. I think from the first row here. So the proposed description, what is the purpose of the use case, must be clearly understood, as is highlighted here. As well with the ownership, also very important. It must be clear who is the owner of the use case, who is continue to work on a use case. Then here, I guess, manage process from BSI. So BSI should really further, let's say, go into the workflow and give the domains and the chapters a clear understanding how BSI is implementing the use case management. Also maybe together with the capabilities to write a use case. So not everybody can maybe has the right capabilities, or maybe also education could be a big topic here. On this side, we have the linked information. So I think this is very important. Relation to other use cases, relation to other maybe standards and so on. That's maybe more highlighted here. Then classification of different use cases, so that we have a clear classification system, maybe also the big picture of use cases. What are the high-level use cases, and how can we break down the use cases? I think this is important in a feedback system to collect structured feedback, yes. Also very important. Today you can already give some feedback, but this is a function which is not really used at the moment. So we should improve this start point. And then start to end point of use case must be clear where a use case is starting, where it ends. So in the whole life cycle must be better recognized where the use cases are. And then evaluation of use cases, a lot of organization assist stuff here, I think also very, very important. And yeah, clear for us that we have to go and evaluate now your results, come up with kind of improvements for certain issues. But still, I believe even if I look at now at this feedback, most of the things are already in platform. You can do it. Of course, we can further improve these features, but there is no hurdle now that you cannot start implement use cases, because everything is already in, and we will take your feedback and start a discussion what should be implemented in the future to really improve the use case and to give you a clear rating system about the quality of use cases.
Yeah, thank you so much, actually, for your contribution. I guess on behalf of Thomas and myself, actually, that was good work, right? I guess you really made an impact with this work you have been doing today. Thank you so much. And well, we warmly still invite you actually to use case management, that you visit, and well, in the best case, that you stay in touch with us and give us also feedback in future, so that we can develop this one further. And we hope to see you then, hopefully in the next use case management at the next summit, right?
Yes. Okay.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, and have a great day.